Even by North Korean standards, Rason is not exactly a tourism hotspot, a remote economic zone closer to China and Russia than the capital Pyongyang. Rason is known for its shoe factory and banking system. There's also a textile factory and sea cucumber breeding farm. A typical workday includes outdoor exercise, weather permitting. In almost any other place, tourists probably wouldn't be lining up for the chance to open a bank account. But this is North Korea. The secret state has chosen Rason as its first post-pandemic destination for Western tourists, allegedly.
Will it happen next week? Entirely possible. But will it be delayed? Entirely possible.
Longtime tour operator Simon Cockrell knows there are no guarantees when it comes to North Korea. Simon's made nearly 200 trips. He says traveling there is not for everyone.
You're choosing a highly restrictive time in a very complicated country on a trip that your family will be worried about.
And some say for good reason. American college student Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, accused of stealing a propaganda poster from his Pyongyang hotel. After 17 months in detention, he returned home in a persistent vegetative state and died days later. The State Department has banned U.S. tourists from visiting North Korea ever since. What's the number one thing you tell people not to do when they visit North Korea?
Don't proselytize religiously. It's illegal. Don't break any law, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. Simple as that.
Not as simple, for some anyway. The question, should tourists go? What do you say to critics who argue people's money is basically supporting a regime and its illegal nuclear program?
It's not really supporting any of those things because the state of North Korea does not stand or fall on tourism revenue. If it did, it would no longer exist.
For the past year, North Korea has only allowed Russian tourists to visit. Soon, maybe, a handful of visitors from the West, arriving just in time for one of North Korea's biggest holidays, the late Kim Jong-il's birthday. For now, only a handful of Western tourists are expected to be allowed back in if this happens. And we don't know if this is the beginning of a wider reopening or perhaps just an extremely limited test run, thus putting them in such an isolated city. But one thing that we are noticing is that Chinese tourists have yet to return, which is interesting because you have a lot of Russian visitors, but no Chinese tourists back yet since the pandemic. Some say that may be a sign of Beijing's growing displeasure with Pyongyang's deepening ties with Moscow.